This video is about building a porthole ring. This one is for a bowl I'm making right now that is based on a music theme. I got the idea of a porthole ring from Malcolm Tibbitt's book. He did it with wood. It was thin wood, maybe 1/8 of an inch thick. I am doing it with veneer, which is even thinner, maybe a 1/40th of an inch thick. I used to do marquetry, which is the work of making things out of veneer. In fact, this picture behind me of this eagle is a marquetry picture that I made 20 or 30 years ago, but I made it. Okay, so that's what's going to be in this video. I will be doing videos on the other techniques in the music bowl. This is not the only feature that will be musical, and I'll have one of putting it all together. After cutting out the squares for the portholes, I drilled a 2 3/8 inch hole using a Forstner bit, and then I taped 2 of the pieces together to allow room for the router pilot bit to not bump into the pad below, and then I routed around over to the depth that I wanted. After the first side was completed, I flipped them over to do the other piece on the other side. To make this clarinet, the first step is to get the black and the white stripe and the black and the white stripes together. I'm going to do that by just cutting veneer into straight lines, and I'll demonstrate that real quick. The next step is to fill any holes and cracks in the back. There aren't many, they're very tiny, with the appropriate sawdust. In this case, I'm using ebony. Everything here is black or white, and the black borders everything. Okay, this drum has been finished sand to 300 grit, And the final step before trimming will be to glue this frame or this porthole over it, and it needs to be centered. It doesn't really matter if it's up, down, or whatever, it just needs to be centered. So the final step in this process before trimming it to make segments is to basically sand this edge flat. I want a good surface for mounting on the miter saw to cut the angles. I am going to sand flush to the front frame. So I'm basically using this as my reference surface, and I'm going to sand this excess off. That's all I'm doing. So I marked the left side. I'm cutting everything from the bottom. I already have this smooth flat bottom that I did on the disc sander. And I marked the left side and marked it on top. And now I'm going to cut just that side on the chop saw. So I marked the other side of one of these at the place I want to cut. So I'm going to set it up like this and then use a stop block to repeat for all the other pieces. Time to put it together. I do have a couple of duplicates. I need to make sure they're on the opposite side of the bowl. That looks like a very good fit. So it's ready for glue up. Okay, I am going to try to flatten the bottom of this ring and take just a little bit off of it, maybe a 1/16 to an eighth of an inch. Okay, all the pencil lines are gone, so the bottom is flat. I will flatten the top of it after it's glued to the bowl. Some of these pieces, I actually used a wood burner to put the strings on the guitar and the ferrets or whatever they're called on the guitar. The rest of it is marquetry, and I used a wood burner to put the black keys on the piano, and a wood burner to put this line on.